Great. Okay. I think we're going to get started now. Once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this morning's webinar on behalf of the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in the United Kingdom. I would like to give you a very warm welcome to our webinar today, which we're holding on the topic of mental health in the workplace. And we're really pleased to be holding this session alongside Maria Almeida from Think Differently Company, which is a new member of the Spanish Chamber. So I'll just give you a little background on Maria now. So Maria is a psychoanalyst from Escuela Grupo Cero in Madrid. She provides a different psychotherapy approach to promoting mental well-being at an individual level and to companies as a whole. Having worked for more than 10 years in corporations, including Apple, this has enabled her to gain a deeper understanding of how psychoanalysis can be applied to business organizations. In addition to having studied E3 Business and Law at Universidad Pontificia de Comillas in 2011, while working at Orange, she started training as a psychoanalyst with Escuela de Psychoanálisis Grupo Cero in Madrid. Today, she works as a full-time psychoanalyst. So Maria is going to be now giving her presentation, and after that, if you have any questions for her, you can write those in, and she'll be happy to answer those. So to do that, you'll either see the chat function or the Q&A function. Please use those as opposed to the raise hand tool, which one of those you prefer. And Maria will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So now, without further ado, Maria, I'll hand over to you.
Okay. Let me put my camera on. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks very much for the intro, Hannah. And first of all, thanks a lot to the Spanish Chamber for giving me the opportunity of holding this webinar, and to you, Hannah, for having been so supportive setting up and with all the comms. I'm going to talk to you about why psychoanalysis is a good tool and how you can benefit from it. It can be a bit of a complex topic, so my idea was that you leave the webinar with at least a couple of clear ideas. That's why the presentation is not going to be very long. It will last like 35-40 minutes. If you have any questions, please, as Hannah said, just write them in the chat or in the Q&A, and I will answer them after the presentation. I hope you enjoy it. Let's start. I'm going to remove my camera so that you don't get distracted with my face. And I hope you've seen the slides. So a lot have been said about mental health and COVID. My objective for today is to tell you something you have not heard before, and hoping I can make you curious so that you want to hear more. The importance of mental health has been underestimated for a long time. Unfortunately, COVID has increased and magnified the challenges many of us already had with our mental health. And before we jump into what I called the world after COVID, I wanted to give you a glance at how things looked regarding mental health before the pandemic, because they were not looking good. In order to do that, I'm going to just share with you the main findings and the conclusion of a study done by Accenture prior to COVID. And on behalf of This Can Happen, for those of you who don't know, This Can Happen is a conference to tackle mental health in the workplace. Accenture conducted a survey of 2,170 working men and women across the UK to understand more about how mental health touches people's life. These are some of the main findings, and the conclusion of the study was that mental health is not a minority issue. It touches almost all employees and can impact not only their performance at work, but also their ability to enjoy life and live to the full. If you think about it, as I said, this is prior to COVID. So this number, 90%, which to me is already quite high, if anything, is only going to increase with the pandemic. Another number that I find very concerning is the number of people thinking of killing themselves. We still don't have official data about the impact of COVID, but what we know is that charities had reported a surge in the number of people seeking mental health support. So again, if anything, this number, 39, will increase because of the pandemic. Some other data of the study that I found interesting is women are more likely than men to report common mental health disorders. They are also more likely to report severe symptoms. The youngest workers in the study were, of course, the millennials. Their age was between 20 and their late 30s. This generation reported more personal experience of mental health challenges than older generations, to the point that 93% reported to have had mental health challenges. Perhaps, as a result, they are 3 times more likely to say that mental health to them is more important than physical health. They are also more likely to manage their mental well-being actively, for example, through exercise, yoga, or mindfulness practices. However, despite having more exposure to mental health challenges, they are less comfortable with the topic. All in all, mental health touches everybody. This message started to arise before the pandemic, and now it is evident. In case these figures were not convincing, here you have some data about the cost for the UK employers of the poor mental health of their employees. £49 billion, already a big number. Remember, this number is coming before the pandemic. If anything, it will go up. To give you a bit of background, most of the times when an employee goes on sick leave is due to mental health issues. If an employee ends up leaving the organization, the company will have to hire someone else to replace him, with the cost of resources that implies not only money, but also time, until the new employee is up and running at full productivity. However, what I think even more concerning in this slide is that the biggest cost is the cost of presenteeism. People who remain at work while being unwell and not able to be at their best. There is a reason for investing in mental health. And remember, this is just a cost we want to avoid. What if there was also an opportunity? What if we could make money if we invested in mental health? Remember, for millennials, a job is not just a source of income, it is part of their social and active lives. Again, this is prior to COVID. For now, we can conclude there is an issue with mental health. It has a cost, we have seen is like 40 billion, but there is also an opportunity. This was prior to COVID. Let's see how the pandemic has increased. Sorry, I should have moved that. Let's see how the pandemic has increased the challenges and created opportunities for those that can seize them. I think we would all agree that COVID has only magnified the mental health challenges we already had. Lockdown and social restrictions have been very hard on us all. Although the psychological consequences of COVID are still unknown, some sociologists, like Corey Keyes, have started to use the term languishing to describe how we are feeling. We are not depressed, but that doesn't mean we are not struggling. We are not burned out, but that doesn't mean we are fired up. We are languishing. If we are languishing, we are not working at full capacity. We are not motivated. We are not able to focus. Most likely, our performance will decrease on top of our overall happiness. According to some reports, these are some of the most common challenges we have experienced since the pandemic started. Lack of focus. This was a problem way before the pandemic because of the nature of our work. We are checking email how many times? 74 times a day. We are switching tasks every around 10 minutes. In the past year, on top of that, many of us have also been struggling with interruptions from kids around the house, colleagues from other parts of the world, and bosses who do not respect boundaries. Fragmenting attention is an enemy of engagement and excellence. However, getting more done isn't just good for performance at work. Years ago, some companies have already tested a simple policy. For example, no interruptions, Tuesday, Thursday, before noon. When employees managed the boundary themselves, their productivity increased. But when the company set quiet time as official policy, their productivity was above average. However, the employee satisfaction survey showed that getting more done wasn't just good for performance at work. We now know that the most important factor in daily joy and motivation is a sense of progress. In the pandemic, this has been one of our biggest challenges. we have been asked to follow very restrictive guidelines, not to see our friends, not to see our families, stay at home for too long, too restrictive, and we have seen no progress. Only now, at least in London, things have begun to open up, and let's hope it continues like this. Because of that, the pandemic has been a big loss to us all. Even when we have been lucky and all our loved ones are safe, we haven't lost our job and are healthy. We are all mourning the loss of normalcy. With the very little information we have at the moment, what can be done about these challenges? What can be done about languishing? Uninterrupted time. Maybe we need to set boundaries. I guess this tip is something that you have been hearing quite a lot during the pandemic. Why? Because it gives us freedom to focus. We can find solace in experiences that capture our full attention. And if the most important factor in daily joy and motivation is a sense of progress, how can companies help employees feel progress? How can you help yourself? Maybe learning something new, like a hobby, a language. Focus on a small goal. For example, inbox at 0 at the end of the day. Although I know that might be a big goal for some. One of the clearest paths to flow is a just manageable difficulty, a challenge that stretches your skills and heightens your resolve. And I am sure we could all come up with a lot more challenges together and find some teams to overcome them. But languishing is not merely in our heads. It is in our circumstances. We can't heal a sick culture with personal bandages. Also, today is COVID, but what will come next? A lot of scientists and resources are being allocated to deal with the physical side of COVID, with the disease in itself. But we need to take care of the psychological consequences for us all. We still live in a world that normalizes physical health, but stigmatizes mental health challenges. There is a taboo with mental health, and it has begun to break down. However, despite the progress, there is still a lot to be done in terms of breaking the stigma, educating people, and giving them tools. We need something more than a bunch of tips. How employers can help employees be at their best? How can each of you help yourself? Taking a holistic approach to your well-being, putting mental health at the center, and with a psychoanalytic approach. Why with a psychoanalytic approach? Only around 10% of our health is determined by the healthcare we receive, while 90% is determined by lifestyle choices and social determinants. All in all, a mindset, something we can influence and change. How? With psychoanalysis. Why? Because psychoanalysis is the only discipline with a unique listening for each case, for each person. And I think this is a very important point. Nowadays, it is easy to access knowledge. We all can go online. Maybe we even have too much information. In fact, all these new technologies, which are great for some things, such as machine learning and automatization of processes, many times are aimed at classifying us in a segment, a cluster, to deliver simplified generic solutions, rather than treating us as unique individuals. Psychoanalysis is tailored to each person. Unique treatment. We are all different. It is the only scientific discipline which does not pathologize the difference. Only discipline that embraces differences and sees value on them. That is why it's the best tool to build unique, diverse, and inclusive cultures, where people can be themselves, different from each other, being able to grow freely and transforming themselves. Before we continue talking about psychoanalysis, I would like to answer a doubt that you might already have. What is the main difference between psychiatry, psychology, and psychoanalysis? Psychology and psychiatry don't take into account the unconscious mind, only the consciousness. Psychoanalysis focuses on the unconscious mind. According to psychoanalysis, the unconscious mind is at the center of our psychic lives. The conscious is generated by the unconscious mind, and it's misleading, like feelings and other senses. Why is this so important? Why is so important that psychoanalysis focuses on the unconscious mind and not on the conscious mind? Let's see it with an example. If I stood still all day, I would watch the sun move from one side of the sky to the other, and I will think it is the sun which goes around the Earth. But thanks to Copernicus and years of study, we now know that is in fact the Earth which goes around the sun. This example shows we are too rationalist. We trust too much our eyes, our consciousness. Perception of reality through the eyes is misleading, exactly as perception of reality through consciousness or a feeling. Unconscious mind is the only way to access reality, but by definition, unconscious mind is the knowledge unknown. We cannot see the unconscious mind. It is nowhere. We can only see its effects. Why was Freud interested in the dreams? Because it's an effect of the unconscious mind. Freud had been criticized to having discovered the unconscious mind working with his hysterical patients. So, to prove his discovery of the unconscious mind and generalize the theory, he used the dreams. Why? Because we all dream, healthy and sick individuals. Thanks to the dreams, he proved we all have psychic apparatus. We all have unconscious mind. He explained how the psychic apparatus works. Why am I telling you this? Yes, we all have an unconscious mind, but remember, we cannot see the unconscious mind. It is nowhere. We can only see its effects. Other effects of the unconscious mind are sleeps, jokes, and other effects are symptoms and whole chronic disease. Yes, symptoms are another effect of the unconscious mind, like dreams or jokes. Only way to access the unconscious mind and get to know it is by interpretation. That is what the psychoanalyst does in the session. The person associates freely, and the psychoanalyst interprets the unconscious mind of that particular individual. Only then you can understand your unconscious mind. What is behind that dream? Why did I crack that joke? Why did I forget my kiss? Maybe I didn't want it to be back. Why do I have this sore throat? Unconscious mind doesn't care if he produces a joke or a symptom, but we do care. Unconscious mind just wants to show up, but we do care how it shows up. For us, it's not the same to crack a joke than to have a symptom, and they are all effects of the unconscious mind. What are other effects of the unconscious mind? Chronic disease, guilt, anxiety, prejudices, bias. If we don't know how to read reality properly, if we don't use the right tools, we will suffer from our unconscious mind, but we won't be able to change it. Because with the tools that we have at the moment, with rationality and traditional theories, we can't understand it. We can't see the unconscious mind. We can only see its effects. We suffer from anxiety, and maybe we have been lucky enough and we have learned to manage the symptoms, but it comes back. Why? Because anxiety is generated by the unconscious mind. Only by understanding the unconscious mind, the trigger, we can change it. That is what you need to understand, the unconscious mind. Psychoanalysis is the tool that can help you with that. You could think of psychoanalysis as a pair of glasses, which can help you read reality properly, including the unconscious mind. Without psychoanalysis, we are blind to those unconscious processes. We can manage the symptoms, but we are not able to address the issue. The conflict which triggers the symptom will continue there. Psychoanalysis is the tool which help us see, understand things which are not so obvious. Why did I have that dream? Why am I so scared of talking in public? Why do I always end up in toxic relationships? With all that information, we can transform our reality and make it better. How does this tool work? How can it help us? Anxiety was a problem for many of us way before COVID. We all have had an anxiety attack or have a colleague at work who is stressed all the time, no matter if it's Monday morning or Friday evening. It is shocking, but we need to understand that anxiety is not a disease. Anxiety is necessary. However, it should not be painful nor cause symptoms in the body. Anxiety warns us when we are in danger. Let's say, for example, there's a fire and we need to run and escape. But people who are stressed all the time, it is not real. We are not in danger all the time. That is a pathology. For these people who are stressed all the time, it is very difficult to manage uncertainty. They have a very negative, pessimistic view of life. Why? Because for them, it's easier to imagine that the worst thing will happen than waiting to see what happens. For them, it's better the certainty of the worst case scenario than waiting. Psychoanalysis can make you happier and more relaxed. It can help you, it can teach you to deal with your uncertainty. And we all need to know how to deal with anxiety. Every time we initiate something new, a project, a relationship, a hobby, we move countries to be able to grow, we need to be able to tolerate a bit of anxiety. Main challenge of the pandemic has been that we have been put in a situation in which we feel we are in danger all the time. That is not real. And if it was, it is even more important to remain calm. Let's keep going. Why is it so important that a psychoanalyst can interpret the reality for us? As we have seen in the example, reality is not what it seems. What do you think is the main cause of failure? Laziness. We are not talented enough. We are ugly, not lovable. We don't want to be happy. I'm sure you know some people, and I hope not, but maybe if one of you could be the case. Those people who try to progress at work, become healthier, have more friends, social life, and they never succeed. Main cause of failure is fear of success. Freud already described this phenomena in 1916 in his work, Those Wrecked by Success. It sounds unbelievable, but for the human being, it is more difficult to tolerate success than failure. Failure is a punishment that calms down our unconscious guilt. Why do we look for punishment? Why do we have the need to be punished? Guilt is one of the most common and unpleasant feelings, to the point that we prefer punishment. Remember, from the unconscious guilt, we can only see its effects: the punishment, the failure. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? I have already fallen off my bike 3 times this week. Failure of many types. It can be unhappy marriage, losing a job, or, for example, oh no, why did I send that important email without the file attached? Why did I show up so late to that important meeting? So, if you are having accidents and failures here and there, you could start thinking that maybe you are not clumsy or stupid. You might be suffering from your unconscious guilt. Unconscious guilt is not related to morality. It does not come from things that we do, but from things we think. Because we are human, we all suffer from it. It is part of our psychic structure. We need to learn to live with it. Psychoanalysis can make you more successful in work and on relationships because it can help you manage your unconscious guilt. You don't need to sabotage yourself. Of course, physical health. Since very early in the history of human being, you might have heard of Hippocrates, if not he was a physician from the ancient Greeks. Emotion and affects, like for example, jealousy, ambition, passion, sorrow, laziness, have been related with sickness in the body. La Rochefoucauld, a French philosopher in 1600, already stated that if we look at the origin of disease, we will find passion and sorrows at the origin. He could relate, for example, cruelty and kidney stones, insomnia and jealousy. Freud also studied and documented how emotions are very related to the capacity of resistance to illness, especially infections. He had access to medical reports from the First World War, and he observed that soldiers from the defeated army were more sensitive to infections than the winner ones. Winner ones didn't get sick. Today we know that people who are stressed, anxious, and depressed are more likely to get disease. There is still a lot to be done, but the impact of mental health on chronic disease is quite well known. Unfortunately, traditional medicine has begun to recognize that there is a link between cancer and depression, and also depression and infections. And it's not the link that you think. It's not because you have cancer that you got depressed, but the other way around. Because you were depressed, you are more likely to get cancer. Same, or well, quite similar happened with anxiety and chronic disease, especially with the autoimmune ones, which unfortunately today are on the surge, exactly the same as stress and anxiety. And there are many reasons for these links. However, we don't have time for now. This could be the topic of a whole series of workshops. However, very quickly, thinking about COVID, we could agree that there is something we are missing. It is not the antigen in itself, but how the person reacts to the virus. Why do some people get infected? Why others don't? It would be very interesting to see if those people who suffer from COVID, especially severe COVID, were previously depressed, were feeling guilty or stressed. Psychoanalysis can prevent disease by treating depression, by treating anxiety, by treating guilt. You prevent disease. Psychosomatic medicine is a very big topic. Psychosomatic medicine has a lot of potential. For now, let's say, with psychoanalysis, you are healthier because you are less likely to develop physical disease. None of my patients have had COVID, and the few of my psychoanalyst colleagues who have had it, their symptoms were not severe. Breathtaking, eh? How can psychoanalysis help me think differently or be able to see what is not so obvious? Connecting your consciousness to your unconscious mind. How many times we can't remember the name of a movie and then boom, 30 minutes later, it shows up. Have you heard the sentence, sleep on it? Sometimes we have to make an important decision, we sleep on it, and when we woke up, we see everything more clear. It is not magic, it is your unconscious mind working on the background. These are all examples of psychoanalytical thinking. We all have great talent on us, are creative, smart, but we have been educated in a way that we became too rationalist. We trust what we see, our consciousness. Thanks to that example, we realize conscious mind is not the right tool to read reality properly. On top of that, psychoanalysis can make you more creative. Our education, morality, prejudices prevent us from trusting our unconscious mind. Psychoanalysis helps us remove those blocks, enabling us to think differently and connecting the unconscious to the conscious mind. It frees us from the prejudices of ideology and morality. Psychoanalysis is like poetry. It opens up possibilities. It helps you build things that were not there before. Why is now more important than ever that we can think differently? COVID has triggered change. Some expected, like digitalization and online experiences, some more unexpected. Due to lockdown and movement restrictions, we now see more value on our local communities. All around the world, searches, including the sentence "near me," have increased and reached historical maximum. Who could expect that after the booming of globalization and big cities, we would go local? Some of these changes might be here to stay. Ourselves, we have changed. During lockdown, our priorities have changed. Now, more than ever, we see the value of outdoors, family, connection. We all have suffered in a way or another from isolation. Even though we have done our best to keep connected through technology, this was one of the toughest challenges of lockdown. There are studies which shows that a lack of social connection is in fact more detrimental to our health than obesity, smoking, and high blood pressure. Our priorities have changed. What has become our biggest priority, to the point that the whole world, has been stopped until we have managed to fix it? Health. Now, more than ever, it is important to care about health in the workspace for both companies and individuals. Why? We no longer go to work. We have started to integrate work in our lives, and that seems to be here to stay. This is why now more than ever, it's important to be able to be flexible, creative, and think differently. To first don't struggle and be able to adapt, but also make the most of this change. This is the future. In a few years, not investing in mental health will be out of question. How can psychoanalysis help us in a moment of change? Why is it a tool that allows transformation that lasts in the long term? Remember, only around 10% of our health is determined by the healthcare we receive, while 90% is determined by lifestyle choices and social determinants. All in all, a mindset. That is what we need to change, our mindset. We have seen why psychoanalysis is the best tool to influence and change our mindset. How can we do that? How can we change social determinants using psychoanalysis? We need to start truly breaking the stigma around mental health. How? Challenging the status quo, being open to learn like you are doing attending this seminar or webinar, sorry. Only being open to learn is not so easy, as change is difficult, sometimes scary. Being curious, learning more about mental health with a different angle. What does it actually mean? Considering that all our actions and failures to act, what we say and what we don't, is led by our unconscious mind, with a bit of a psychoanalytical education, we will be able to see situations, others, and ourselves differently, things that otherwise we miss. Psychoanalysis is a method to know ourselves through the study of the functioning of our mind. If we learn a bit more, that knowledge about ourselves and others can be applied to personal and professional life. This will unlock your potential as you become more creative, calm, healthy, as you get used to success. You can use that new knowledge in decision-making, personal selection, artistic processes. It is an asset companies can give to the employees for their benefit, but also a benefit for the company as a whole, as people would perform better and could get their best results. It is a win-win for everybody. If you're already thinking how you can learn about your unconscious mind, how you can understand your unconscious processes, attending to this workshop was already a big step. You can learn more in further workshops, understanding and exploring things like interpretation of the dreams, how can you manage difficult situations, why don't you achieve your ambitions, why do you get sick, how can you manage anxiety, what causes depression, how can you maximize your potential. It's a very long list of topics and I don't want to bore you. So depending on your challenges and needs, we could depend in different areas. And the best way to really know and understand how your unconscious mind works is with psychoanalysis sessions. What happens in a session of psychoanalysis? In a session of psychoanalysis, you need to say everything, anything that comes to your head, without censoring, without thinking, oh, this is not important, this is nonsense, I am ashamed of saying this. Then the psychoanalyst will, when convenient, make some interpretations. It will build the unconscious wish behind your speech, the unconscious wish behind your dream, your joke, your symptoms. And with that interpretation, with that knowledge, you can transform your life. You can build better relationships. You can understand what you want. You can perform better. You can build the life you want. I think we can have tips for specific situations, but giving people the tool to transform themselves, be at their best, generates long-term transformation that will become part of the DNA of the company. Why would a successful employee leave companies who help them be at their best? Why would the company let go employees who grow? It is an intangible asset which will remain in the culture of the company, attracting new talent and empowering the existing ones. If I have met my objective and I have managed to make you curious and you want to know more, I will be very happy to walk you through the method, my curriculum for the workshop, psychoanalysis sessions, or any other doubt you might have. Thank you very much again to the Chamber of Commerce and to Hannah. I hope you have enjoyed it. And if you want to contact me or have any questions, there you have my contact details. I now stop my share, Hannah, and if there are any questions.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, Maria. What a lot of really useful information there. Thank you so much. We're really pleased here at the Chamber to be holding a webinar on such an important topic. So yeah, we have some time for questions now. So anyone, if you have any, there's either the chat tool that I've just posted in there, so you'll see where that is, or there's also the Q&A tool. So if you have any questions at all for Maria about what she's just spoken about or about her services too, please do write those in. Okay, Maria, a question we've just got in now to kick us off is, in terms of, you spoke about, the importance of psychoanalysis sessions. How many sessions do you think that a typical patient normally needs, and how long will it take for their for it to improve their situation?
Yeah. It's a very typical question. Unfortunately, well, maybe for the best, there is not a typical patient. So some issues can be fixed with a few sessions. Another one will take longer. My advice is, the sooner you feel you have the need to have some psychoanalysis, the better, because it's easier to fix something that it already started than if you leave it for a long time. In my experience, what happens is that, unfortunately, for people, it's quite difficult to go to a psychoanalyst. So when they finally get the therapy, the symptom has been there for a long time, and it has become more and more complex. Most of the patients also come from therapies who have failed in the past, so it's difficult to get their trust again. The answer to that would be, psychoanalysis is useful from the very first session. It is efficient. You need to take into account that it is a process. It's like if you have a leg broken in 3 different places, even if you have the best surgeon, even if you have the best therapy, the process to heal a bone takes what it takes. So if you are patient, it's a good technique and it's very efficient.
Great, thank you. Someone else has asked, how important do you think it is to carry out the psychoanalysis sessions face-to-face? Or could they be online alternatively?
Yes, again, because of the situation, I think it's a good question. In fact, it's not so important. The reason behind it is, if you came here face-to-face to my practice, you would be lying on the sofa or on a divan, looking at the ceiling, and that is to encourage you to say whatever you have in your head. I would be sitting behind you, so you wouldn't see me. This is why having sessions online on the phone, even without the camera, works very well. I could understand that maybe for the first sessions, if people want to come and meet me face-to-face, would make sense. If they want to have a feel of who I am, maybe that would help. But after the first sessions, online works perfectly.
Great, makes sense. Somebody else has asked, does psychoanalysis use medicines of any kind?
No, it does not use any medicine. I think also in the society we live, we are very fan of having a pill and automatic fix of all the issues. Psychoanalysis heals because we talk, but not only because of we talk, not only because of words, is because of the transference. Transference is what happens in the session between the psychoanalyst and the patient. So the patient acts in a session in the same way that she would be acting at work, with their family, with their friends. So we can act on that. It's also, psychoanalysis heals because there is a move of energy, which is called libido. I know this might be a bit complex because maybe to answer properly this question, you need to have a bit of knowledge around the main psychoanalytical concepts, but so that you understand, the healthy thing would be that our libido, our energy, is moving all the time. What happens in main of the disorders like depression, hypochondria, even psychosis and paranoia is that the libido is stuck in the person. What psychoanalysis does is helps to move that energy so it can flow freely. That's why it heals.
Great, thank you. Another question that kind of linked to this topic of psychoanalysis is, someone has asked, obviously in like a company setting, can psychoanalysis be used for teams as a whole, or do you recommend it more for just for individuals?
So psychoanalysis as a treatment is an individual process, but teams can be coached to understand their dynamics and the implication of their unconscious processes. With that knowledge about themselves and others, the dynamics improve a lot better, so they can get better results. Let's say that, oh, I don't understand why this person is so aggressive. It's so difficult to work with him. I never get what I want. So thanks to psychoanalysis, people could understand why people act, why they act, and how to act to get a different outcome. So yes, it can be applied to teams, of course.
Brilliant, thank you. And okay, a final question we've had so far, although I do encourage anyone, if you have any more questions, anyone else, please do write those in either via the chat or the Q&A. So Maria, someone's also asked what about neuroscience and what your thoughts are on this, and if it's more advanced than psychoanalysis in any way.
So no, I know that at the moment neuroscience seems to be the trendiest one, but in fact, the approach that neuroscience has, what neuroscience is trying to do is trying to find the physical location of the psychic apparatus in the neurons, in the cells of the brain. And this is an approach that was already abandoned by Freud in 1895 in his work, the project of scientific psychology, because he realized that, as I said, the psychic apparatus has no physical location, it's nowhere. So no, it's not more advanced.
Great. Thank you so much, Maria. Well, those are all the questions that we've had actually. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
So thank you so much for that presentation. It was really useful. And thank you everyone who's joined us this morning. If anyone has any questions for Maria afterwards, or if you'd like to find out more about her services, I'm going to send around an email which will have all of her contact information. So please do get in touch with Maria directly. But thank you so much for sharing your insight with us this morning, Maria. It's fantastic. Again, I'll also be sending around the recording of this webinar. So it's been so useful, and if you would like to share it with any colleagues or contacts of yours, please do feel free to do so. That's absolutely fine. It'll be on our YouTube channel, and keep an eye on the other upcoming events of the Chamber too on our website. And yeah, thank you so much again, Maria.
Great. Thank you very much.
The best. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you very much for your name. Bye.
Bye-bye.